Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and as you can see, I am done. I have finally finished all the challenge modes and I have all the gold medals. So I have the transmog set and the mount. Now the mount is nice and unique, I like it. And the transmog set, the druid one, is not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. That goes to the monk set, that is absolutely awful. The druid set is pretty good. As I've said, it's not the best thing in the world, but the actual effect that occurs while your character is casting is nice and minimal. It's not obtrusive, and I think it looks pretty nice. So in this video I want to talk about the challenge mode experience and about the actual dungeons that I had to run through with a group of friends and race against the clock in the most efficient manner possible. So here we go. And as a healer, challenge modes are kind of different for you than the other content because, in the normal content, you have your specific gear, you can have a certain amount of spirit and all that good stuff, and it's about efficiency and the healing output, okay? Putting out the most healing possible, keeping everyone alive while being efficient with your mana. That is not the case in challenge modes. Okay, mana is not that big of a deal because you're going to be using the restorative ambers from Glaxy. So as soon as you have a couple of seconds when you're out of combat, you're going to use that and it's going to refill your entire mana bar. So challenge modes won't teach you how to heal efficiently. Okay, it will teach you how to keep people alive and how to make decisions, certain decisions that need to be made. If a DPS is taking damage, do I really want to waste that cast or a global cooldown on him? Because in challenge mode, certain thrash packs and even certain bosses can kill your tank within a single global cooldown. So if you make a mistake or if you decide to heal a DPS that's not going to die, your tank might die instead because you just don't have the time to heal him up and he will drop within 2 melee swings from the boss. I feel like Druid is the easiest healer to use in challenge mode because even if you decide to heal your DPS instead of your tank, you still have the mushroom on the ground, you still have hot on him. And if you don't, well, that's your fault. But generally, I feel like Druids are the easiest healers for challenge modes. They're not the best. I think the best healers are shamans because of their ability to basically spam heal the tank at any given time. As a druid, you can't really do that. There are thrash packs where if your tank does something that he shouldn't, like he doesn't have a cooldown or active mitigation up, you just can't keep him off, even if you're spamming like regrowth, which is the most inefficient spell but does the most amount of healing. So druids are the easiest healers, I would say, and shamans are the best healers. One nice thing about druids though, which other healers can't really do, is that you can do nice amount of burst damage on particular bosses with Heart of the Wild. So if you have a particular boss where you're popping Bloodlust, I'm a troll so I can pop Berserking, I can pop Heart of the Wild, I can pop an Intellect pot, and even when in resto spec I can do around 50k to 60k single target DPS while under the effect of Bloodlust and Heart of the Wild. So other healers can do damage, but it's kinda low. Okay, it's not this nice amount of burst damage for a particular boss. Also, when you have a certain thrash pack or a certain boss and you don't have Heart of the Wild but the tank damage isn't that high, you can always throw on a Moonfire and jump into cat form, start swiping, start mangling. You can even use maim to stun particular targets, so you can think about it as additional interrupt for thrash packs, which is really useful in the Scarlet dungeons. So that's one thing that druids are really good for, okay? The flexibility of, yeah, I can do damage here, maybe I can off tank this mob even in bear form. So yeah, other healers can do damage, but they have just nowhere near the utility that druids have. So that was the healer focused stuff. I want to talk a bit about the tank stuff as well, because challenge modes will teach you how to tank. And they will teach you a lot of stuff. How to hold aggro, how to create death balls, how to take care of casters, how to chain cooldowns, how to use your active mitigation properly. And when shit's going down, you're gonna kite. Because if you don't have cooldowns and you have something that hits really hard, you're not gonna survive it. Your healer can do just X amount of healing, but it's not gonna be enough. He's gonna be restricted by global cooldown. And you're gonna die. Because if you screw up, you're just dead. Which is really good, I think. Because this will prepare you for raids. If you screw up your cooldowns, or if you're not using your active mitigation properly, you're gonna die. And it's the same thing here, which is really good. Now, one nice thing that you will learn from challenge modes that you don't really learn in heroics or normal modes is how to take care of casters. For instance, in Scarlet Monastery, once you get to the last boss room, the chapel, if you pull like 3 casters and you can't hold aggro on them, or you can't bring them to you, your healer is gonna die. Okay, I had around 350k health while in resto spec, and they were holy firing me for like 400k. So it's one holy fire for the healer and he's dead. So you either do it properly or you're boned, which is how it should be, because if you do it properly, it's very rewarding and it feels really good. And I'm actually very happy that Blizzard will do more challenge modes in Warlords of Draenor, so we can do more once we reach level 100. I'm actually looking forward to that. And as a DPS in challenge modes, it's mostly about efficiency and cooldown usage. You know, with a healer, you basically split the dungeon into different parts, and you're like, okay, I need enough mana to get through this, then I can drop combat, I can use the Ember, then I need enough mana for this part, once again I can drop combat, use Ember, and then enough mana for this. Maybe DPS here and there. With a tank, you're kind of splitting the different pulls, because you need to know what a specific mob in a thrash pack is doing, so you don't get one shot by like a holy fire or something. And you kind of have to plan out your own pulls. Okay, I'm gonna pull 5 here, then 5 there, then I can pull this room, and I can pull that and this and that. Maybe if I have 2 mobs left, I can already pull the boss. With DPS, it's kind of planning out the dungeon in a way that, okay, I need a lot of single target DPS here, then I need a lot of burst AoE here, then I need sustained AoE there, and then, you know, a lot of damage with Bloodlust on the last boss. Because if you're using cooldowns just as they come off cooldown, you're not going to be very efficient. And that's what the timer is for. If you're not efficient as a DPS, you're probably not going to meet the gold timer. And all of that, all of these plans and crazy tactics combined together is how you're going to beat the gold timer. If everyone has a plan and they can execute it and they know what to do in front of the dungeon before you start the timer, if everyone knows what's supposed to happen at any given time, you have no problem. Because challenge modes are about skill. There is a bit of RNG here and there, like your healer getting chain stunned and stuff like that, and your tank dying, but mostly it's about skill. And if someone screws up, he's to blame. It's not the game, it's you. If you lose, it's your own fault. Now let's talk a bit about the dungeons themselves, right? The actual challenge mode dungeons. Now I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm gonna cut it a bit short. So the worst challenge mode has to be Stormstone Brewery because of the last boss. Now if you've never done this, the way to kill the last boss in Stormstone Brewery, you basically have to have 4 DPS and 1 tank. You have to have a healer that has a really strong DPS spec, otherwise you're not gonna kill the boss. You're not racing against the gold timer, you basically have to kill the boss before he spawns too many elementals and they will heal him up. Now the elementals have way too much health for challenge modes and it's impossible to kill them. You will spawn them faster than you can kill them. So what you have to do is you have to have a healer that has a really strong DPS spec and you need to nuke him with Bloodlust, which is a bad design in my opinion. And even with 4 DPS we had 2 elemental shamans, We had an arms warrior and I was there as a boomkin. We were all doing around 105k DPS with Bloodlust, and we barely made it before he spawned too many elementals. So that has to be the worst dungeon. I was not enjoying that. You do the dungeon perfectly, and then there is the last boss, which basically says fuck you to all the compositions and all of that, and you just need 4 DPS, which, in my opinion, is a bad design. Now the other challenge modes were nicely varied, because some dungeons, like the Scarlet dungeons, halls and monastery, the thrash is more difficult than the bosses. The thrash is actually worse than the bosses, so when you pull a boss you're like, whew, okay, we can rest now. But other dungeons, it's you plow through the thrash and suddenly there is a boss and he's gonna murder your face if you don't do it properly, which is a nice contrast, and it doesn't get boring. It's not just a couple of dungeons in a line and it's just the same thing with a palette swap. No, they're nice and varied, which adds this nice element of surprise where you're like, okay, we're plowing through thrash in this dungeon, it's gotta be the same in this one. You pull the first thrash pack and you're dead within seconds. You're like, oh, okay, so we need to do something about that, which is nice. I like that. Plus, some of the dungeons actually allow you to use some of the game mechanics. I think it's Siege of Nuzao Temple, where you have the globs that when you kill them they explode, they damage your group, but they give you a damage buff, so you can play around with them. You can, pull the first thrash pack, you kill them, then you pull the blobs. Before your debuff on their basically first blob pack falls off, you can pull another blob, kill one of them just to keep your debuff rolling, and then you can kill, another blob to keep the debuff rolling, another glob, another glob, another glob, and you have a damage increase, a nice amount of damage increase through basically the first boss up to the second boss, maybe even through the second boss, and some people even kite these globs to the third boss. So if you're clever about the way you pull things and you kill things, it can be really beneficial to you, which is amazing. It rewards thinking. Okay, something that Blizzard kind of forgot about with most of their content. It needs to reward thinking and clever people, which challenge modes do. I like that. And that's it. I'm gonna stop talking right now because it's been almost 13 minutes and as I've said before, I don't want this video to be too long. So I would recommend challenge modes basically to everyone who has interest in them. They're amazing. They reward skill, they reward clever people, thinking, and all this good stuff. Okay, if you have a couple of friends, I would recommend doing them with friends. If you do it with puppies, you're probably not gonna have a great time. But if you're doing it with friends, when they can handle their class and they know what they're doing, you're gonna have a great time. But that's it. I thank you a lot for watching and listening, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.